What's up, Cancer? Welcome to another reading. This is Cosmic Cassie. If you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. If you are new, I hope you enjoy the channel. Cancer, we are going to be looking at love and relationships for the month of September. Obviously, as usual, do not take it if it does not resonate. When it doesn't resonate, that means you're forcing, you're fitting, you're shoving, you're trying really hard to make it make sense in your life and see how it shows up. That means it's not your message and don't take it. Now, if it's not, or you just want some more readings, always check out Sun, Moon, Rising signs. I always recommend the rising sign because it's usually the most accurate and long term, because your rising sign does not change positions as often as your sun and moon does. It is the more stable, consistent, most accurate reading that you can use, or sign that you can use for readings, okay? It's long term though, okay? It's not short term. Your sun is pretty short term. It's on a daily basis. Your moon, well, that's a little bit longer than the sun, but still short term, okay? Cancer, let's go ahead and jump into the reading. If you decide that you want a personal reading from me, my website is in the description box below and you can book a reading with me there. If you would like to donate, that information is also down there, and I highly, highly appreciate it from all of you that do donate to the channel. All right, what does Cancer need to know about love and relationships in the month of September? In Cancer, we are going to be using Oracle. So for whatever reason, they had me use Oracle for these readings. Funny enough, I've been using the sister deck to this, which is like it's red instead of blue. And as soon as I moved on from Gemini into Cancer, they immediately showed me a picture of the blue deck, and I was like, ooh, okay, nice. We get a little relief from the heat, and we get to cool down a little bit, because those readings can be a little heat. What does Cancer need to know in September? What does Cancer need to know about love and relationships in September? All right, Cancer. We have mortality. We have the poet. Give me one more. Give me one more for Cancer. Your eyes are like literally just falling out, like something wants to clearly be said here. I love the contrast of colors. I'm going to point those out first because I do feel like it's significant how things are contrasting. The significance I get with the colors is like you had to learn to, and it's funny because I was talking about temperature of the cards and they had me change to the blue deck instead of the red deck. It's almost like you're learning in September, you're finally moving through the complete cycle of learning how to balance your energy, Cancer, and it's learning how to balance a lot of things. The beautiful thing here is with the red and then the blue and then kind of like this turquoisey color, this is a representation of learning to integrate these two energies here. Now, when we look at what the cards actually say, we have mortality, the poet, and freedom. Now, this is the interesting thing that I pick up on this, Cancer, which I can totally relate because Cancer is my moon sign. With mortality, Cancer, it's like when you guys feel your emotions, when something tragic happens, when you are really knee deep in a situation that just really feels difficult and challenging. It's so hard for you guys to sometimes not get this like doomsday emotional state, right? Where it's like everything is terrible and it's like you're so overwhelmed by your internal emotions. And I get a lot of sadness and grief actually with this. So I don't get that it's like anger or jealousy. Like it feels more grieving and sadness that I'm human. I'm in a situation and it's sad and it's making me upset, and then like I start spiraling and you don't realize you're spiraling because your spiral, Cancer, in this reading, it shows that it's more why do I have to be a human? Why do I have to exist in this world? Like it can be one thing that happens with a family member, a friend, a situation in your life, and that's the spiral. Is you take this one situation that happens and suddenly it turns into like, why do I have to be a human? All humans are just terrible. I don't even want to be on this planet anymore. And it's like there's this real sense of sadness about having mortality. And obviously like you're not immortal, but there's this real sense of grief of like, I just want to get this done and over with. Like, I don't want to exist in this life anymore. And it's not saying there's any kind of like, ideations going on, but it just feels like, man, I'm going to have to be miserable during my whole experience, like, because I just feel so much, because you feel the weight of the world in your heart, Cancer. It's not on your shoulders, it's in your heart. And sometimes that energy really spirals you into this perspective of reality in all things, that you can still show up and be happy and smile and get along with people and advance and be successful, but there's always like this deep guttural emotion that doesn't go away, where it's like, why do I have to be immortal? Not because I want to be immortal, but because, like, I don't even want to be immortal. Like, I don't want to be a human. This experience is so tiring. It's so exhausting. It's so heavy. There's so much emotion. It's like this, whatever Cancer I'm talking to, you could seriously be an empath, whether you realize it or not, which I wouldn't be surprised. It's Cancer, right? Water. But this is like a deep seated feeling that doesn't really go away. And then we transition into the poet. The poet, this is more of an energy of, and mind you, mortality, this feeling is very internal. It's not shared. That's what I'm saying. You can show the outside world that you're really happy, that you're feeling good, that you're involved, but it's like a deep rooted feeling within. The poet is the external to that. This is, I'm going to sing my sad song to everyone. I'm going to tell everyone about, the grief and the terrible things that are happening. And it's like playing the world's smallest violin in a way here, not to be literal, but the poet is the energy I get with that. This is, I'm expressing outwardly all of my emotions. And what I'm doing is, as I express these emotions outwardly, there's very much this like, it's almost like damsel in distress energy is the best way I could probably label it. It's like when you have just regular conversations with people, you're not like throwing up your feelings all over them, you're not getting super vulnerable, but there's always this like undertone about everything that you say. And like, even when you're explaining your weekend, when you're talking about your life, your hobbies, there's always this like really quiet, subtle undertone of nothing ever works out for me. It's gonna end up being a sad day anyways. I always have to try so hard. It's supposed to be fun, but like, it's really difficult. It's like putting on a warrior mask when people clearly see you crying. And it's like, they always sense this like feeling that you're crying under the mask, but you're like, no, I'm gonna put on a warrior mask because I'm tough and I'll get through it. It's like trying to be really positive, trying to stay upbeat, and in your mind, Cancer, I think that you're doing a really good job at masking it, but it's like you're always carrying around this undertone of energy when you're interacting with people that gives off like this just really wounded warrior energy, okay? And then we transition into freedom. This is the integration of the two, because the freedom is realizing that I'm not trapped by my emotions. That's the mortality, right? It's realizing that, yes, it's actually a beautiful thing to feel the things I feel. It's no longer this like heavy negative thing where you're looking at it in this like, man, I'm doomed kind of thing because I'm a human. There's a sense of realization here that it's actually so beautiful that I can experience such a spectrum of emotion. And I don't have to get tunnel vision on the morality piece. I don't have to get tunnel vision on the deep grief and sadness, because there's also deep excitement, there's deep joy, there's deep passion, there's deep curiosity, fear, nervousness. And it's almost like we've already been going through this process. So if this resonates, it resonates, okay? Because I don't feel that, Cancer, you're going through this process anymore. You are about to enter the freedom stage in September. You've already figured the mortality piece out. You've already learned to actually embrace how deeply you feel things, and realizing that you don't have to get like hyper focused on the negative feelings or whatever you label as a negative feeling, because there's so many more emotions that you feel than just the negativity. And then with the poet, there's a transformation there, because it's almost like, hey, I can actually show people that I am crying. And that's what helps me put a warrior face on and not a warrior mask on. So there's this epiphany moment of, you know what, I can sing my sad song to people. Like, I don't have to pretend. I don't have to suppress that energy and act like it doesn't exist, because you're emitting it. You know, people feel it. Even if they can't label it, they feel that you're suppressing that energy. So then you're just carrying this sad energy around with you everywhere, even though you're smiling and you're being generous and you're, you know, hanging out and you're doing all these awesome things. There's always like just this energy and vibe of deep rooted sadness, and people may not be able to label that, Cancer, but that's what they feel from you, and that's what you feel. But the poet is saying, hey, we go from that, and we actually take that and we realize, I can share that sad feeling. I don't have to suppress it. I can actually share it, and I can show the world that I've had sadness, that I've had grief, that I've, you know, gone through just tragedy in my own reality, my own perspective, you know, like things have not always been nice, and I am still connected to those emotions. You know, they never really go away. That's where this mortality comes in. They never really go away. I always am connected to this sad, grieving emotion, but I've learned to transform it into something that can benefit other people and myself. I take it and I share it, and it creates inspiration. It creates motivation. It creates deep wisdom and insight for others as well as for myself. There's like this really deep reflection on realizing, like, just because I'm always connected to this sadness and grief doesn't mean I have to be sad and feel like I'm grieving. It means that I can take that emotion that I'm always connected to, that I always feel no matter what, and actually use it for something beautiful and productive and positive in my life and in other people's lives. And that's where the freedom comes in, because the freedom is the integration of these two energies. The freedom is learning how to transform these into negative energies into positive energies. Cancer, the freedom is what we're fully walking into in September. Now, how does this relate to love and relationships? Okay, a lot of your sadness and grief most likely had to do with other people and your experiences with these other people. And it's almost like the rectifying of karma, right? The rectifying of that cocoon, because you had to experience those situations in relationships. You had to experience them to recognize that you have this deep-seated grief and sadness of being human and just always feeling just like these deep emotions here, Cancer. You had to go through that cocoon in order to come out on the other end and realize that it's actually your power. Feeling that deeply, being able to always almost like have your toe in the water at all times, that's a strength. That's a power. That's something that you hold that other people don't hold. But if you look at it as something negative, then you experience it as something negative. And in September, it's like we've already been going through this process of realizing, no, this maybe isn't bad. Maybe my deep emotions are not something to avoid and be shameful about and hide and avoid and suppress. It's like we're already going through that process of opening up and realizing, like, this might be a power, and I might be able to use this in a powerful way. And then September is when we enact it. Show me the freedom. How are Cancers showing their freedom in September? This is beautiful, Cancer. This is really cool. I didn't expect it to kind of like get this deep, but you know, it is what it is. Give me a second. I just freaking dropped like a bunch of cards. I say a bunch, but it really wasn't. I'm gonna redraw these because I had 3 separate piles fall out. And each pile had like 5 cards. Show me, how does Cancer's freedom really show up in September? How does that freedom look? What are we doing with it? What does it look like in September for Cancer? We have dystopia. Show me Cancer. How does that freedom look in September? Terror. And one more for Cancer. One more for Cancer. How does that freedom look? All right, Cancer. I love this. All three of these cards seem bad. They're not. It's actually a really good thing, because I'm asking, how's that freedom showing up for you guys? What does that look like for you guys in September? When you walk into that freedom in September, how does that look? And we have dystopia, we have terror, and we have the deceiver. Dystopia is really linked to this mortality, like where we were with it, where it's like everything is terrible, like nothing makes sense, like it's all dystopia, it's all unorganized, it's all like just confusing. It's like being in a bad nightmare that never ends, and it's like you just don't want to be here anymore, and yet you're here, and it's just like it can't be fixed, it can't be corrected. Terror, even though it says terror, what I get when I look at this card is always like being afraid of that darkness kind of overcoming you. And I don't mean darkness as like a separate entity. I mean like that internal piece of you. Like it's almost like you were afraid of yourself, Cancer, because you sense so much deep emotion that can be negative, that can be painful, it can be sad. And like I said, whatever Cancer this is, you're always tapped into those emotions. It's like, if you just think about it for 2 seconds, you can fall back into it, even if it's the happiest day of your life. Even in happy, joyous moments, you can find a piece of sadness. And it's not to say because you're a sad person, because you're not, but it's like you're always tapped in and connected to this streamline of grief and sadness. But again, the mortality is realizing that can be a beautiful thing, not this terrible thing. But the terror is almost like being afraid that one day it's going to overwhelm me to a point I can't function. It's going to overcome me to a point that I can't be happy in life anymore. What if I'm just always depressed? What if I never succeed at anything? It's like all these fears show up, because what if this sadness, this grief that I'm always connected to overcomes me? What if it takes over and I can't get out of it anymore? Okay, there was a lot of fear around that. And then finally we have the deceiver. This is a lot of self-deception. This is a lot of the lies that you tell yourself, and majority of it is stemmed from these two, right? But these are what I get, especially with the black cat on this. It's like that saying, it's bad luck if a black cat crosses your road, or like crosses your path. And it's like people put this negative connotation on black cats, like they're just terrible, bad omen, just bad luck. But it's like, if you look beyond that saying, if you look beyond the surface level belief, cats, especially black cats, are super mystical and spiritual animals. They've been revered throughout the ages. And it's not really until our time, after all the witch trials, that they cursed what a black cat represents. But really, that's not what it's represented. That's not what it's ever represented. They were worshipped because of this very beautiful and nostalgic, like, high energy and power from them. Like, they are very it's almost like, I want to say mythical creatures, but it's like they're not mythical, because obviously they exist. But that's almost the energy they give off. So my point being is, the deceiver is like, everyone's telling you, and you're looking at yourself like, oh my gosh, I'm this terrible thing, not even realizing, like, boo, you are ancient power. You are sacred wisdom walking the earth right now. And so the deceiver is the lies that we tell ourselves. Like, we don't even know that we're lying to ourselves, but it's the lies that we tell ourselves, and then we live by those lies, right? So all three of these seem bad. These are all three things that you're having freedom from, Cancer. These are all three things that you are going to go into September no longer experiencing in your life. The world is no longer going to be a dystopia for you. You will no longer be afraid of your power, of your emotion, of the things that you can connect with internally that other people can't. And you're going to be free because you're no longer going to be living in this like life, in this reality where you're lying to yourself about who you are. This is fully realizing who you are and living that truth and realizing that all those things that you thought were terrible about yourself, they're actually what gives you freedom. They're actually what sets you apart and lets you do bigger, badder, better things than anyone. Not to say you're in comparison mode or you're in competition mode, but it's like you are so stifled, Cancer. You were so stifled and held back and pinned down, and you did it to yourself. And because you did it to yourself, other people thought it was okay to do it to you as well, specifically in your love life, in your relationships. But now that this is transforming, walking into September, all those burdens have just become blessings. Okay, boo? Blessings. Burdens into blessings. That's where we want to be, and that's where you're going to be in September, Cancer. Again, sorry this isn't too much about love and relationships, but Cancer, if this resonates for you, I think the reason it didn't tap in on one single love relationship energy is because you've held this overall similar energy in all your love and relationships, where there's always like this just consistent energy that seems to pop up where it always ends with you being sad, you feeling deep grief, and you having to mourn, and you just, and it's not even about feeling betrayed or getting betrayed. It's like you are so deeply connected to those energies of the water, and the water holds all pain. Think about it. Your tears are physical water that comes out of you. Water holds pain, but it also holds joy and happiness, and that's what we're transitioning into in September. Cancer, I absolutely love this reading for you. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for me that I even have a Cancer placement. I'm like, yes, boo, I will take this reading with me. But Cancer, this is all that I have for you. Later in the month, I'll be doing finances and career, and then I'm also going to be doing your, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, your new moon and your full moon readings later in the month as well. So Cancer, if you do want a personal reading, again, that link is in the description box, as well as where you can donate if you would like to do that for the channel. Again, I deeply appreciate it if you do. Thanks for watching, Cancer. Bye.